Hey everyone, Morty Scanlon here. I'm your host for the Flipgrid Live event Pride Series. For a visual description, white male, light brown hair, graying at the sides. I'm wearing dark rimmed glasses with a light blue t-shirt and a gray zip up top over it. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm a gay male. I have a question. Do you believe that we are more alike than we are different? Think about it. We're all people, right? Human beings. And each one of us wants to feel safe, loved, and cared for. We ask you to bring a spirit of curiosity to this live event in celebration of Pride Month. Find ways you are similar to our guests instead of focusing on the ways you are different. And please ask questions. Drop any questions you have into the chat. All right then, let's get to it. Hello from sunny Southern California, and welcome to this Flipgrid Live event. I'm your host, Morty Scanlon. Shortly, we're going to speak with a woman and activist. Her name, Tatenda Ngwaru. All right, everyone, hope you're ready, because you are about to meet one incredibly strong human being.
My name is Tatenda Ngwaru. I am originally from Zimbabwe. I am in the United States of America as an asylum seeker. I was born intersex, and it's one of those things that was very difficult, and life was very hard for me in Zimbabwe until I had to leave, just even for my own safety. So in New York City, I was trying to find a way that people could come together and listen to my story. And I realized that for people to listen to me, I have to make them really good food. I learned this as a child because my mom would always make food when she had a topic to discuss. And I realized in this world where we feel like there's a lot of pain and challenges, all we have to do sometimes is to create a platform where people can take off the things that are on their shoulders and share it with others.
Now, hello Tatenda. Thank you so much for being here. We are honored to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. This is such a wonderful opportunity. I can't wait to engage with everybody.
Neither can we. Tatenda, I love that you use food to bring people together, because something we all have in common is that we need to eat. And where I'm from, in Ireland, part of the world, off the edge of Europe, a cup of tea always gets involved in every important conversation. As you said, in a world with pain and challenges, we need to create space for others to take things off their shoulders and share. So Tatenda, would you do us the honor of sharing your story with us?
Absolutely. I cannot wait. Thanks again, everybody. It's not lost on me what a wonderful opportunity it is to have a platform where I can get to speak my truth. So I do not take this for granted for everybody who's made this possible. I was born in Zimbabwe in a very small town called Gutu, where everybody knows everybody. And I was born intersex. And for those who don't know, intersex is a condition when a child is born and does not fit into the typical biological definitions of male or female. And being intersex would mean my childhood was going to be very difficult because this was regarded shameful. My parents, when I went to school, they actually advised me not to tell anyone because they were in fear that I would get bullied. This is the reality of intersex people from my country. So growing up, I was always so insecure because I thought I had been robbed of a choice to speak for myself and to share with the world who I am and to have that choice to make. And that always stood with me in so much pain. And I never could feel happy like I was at the fullest extent of my happiness. So in my 20s, after a very long, 22 years, I decided to start a nonprofit that promoted the rights for intersex people. This was going to be a secret organization because the government does not promote people who speak up, especially for topics like being intersex, because it's regarded, it's a criminal activity, because LGBTQ plus lives are all not allowed to do this. And people who had tried to speak up before me had either been killed or some of them had disappeared. And some of them, we don't even know where they are up to today. But because I was so passionate about speaking on my truth, I decided I was going to give it a shot. And I wanted a place where I could feel the unconditional love that I had dreamed of, that I had seen other girls get to live their dreams. And I wanted that for myself. And I knew that creating a platform like that would not only allow me, but so many other people who related to my story, who were also born intersex, to feel safe and loved in this platform. Running this organization was always such a risk, because the police would be sent by the government to raid our offices so that they could see who's on our list, who am I working with, so that they could silence us. There were so many times I was physically abused for speaking up. I was called a freak. But I would say one of the things that kept me going was the fact that I knew that I was standing in my truth. While this was so painful, I had also a personal life that was going on in other areas. And I had my first loss out of this kind of work. It was the cause of this loss. I remember I had met someone and I had fallen in love, and we had gotten engaged. And I miraculously fell pregnant. And I remember being pregnant and also having to deal with a lot of raids that were coming, and just my blood pressure was always high because I was so scared. While this was a very passionate job of mine, but it was also a very scary one. And at 8 months of my pregnancy with my fiance, we lost our daughter, because apparently the doctors told me my blood pressure was too high and it was impossible for my daughter to breathe whilst she was inside of me. And this is the first loss I had of a human, all because of my passion. This was a very difficult situation to integrate. I couldn't understand why another life had to be lost instead of mine either, because of my decisions. And I want to tell you why and what made me come to this country. Is because even after the loss of our daughter, they had not had enough. They had said they wanted to burn down me and my fiancé and my parents while we were in my father's house. They even came to my father's house to try and burn it down, and they were demanding that I get out of the house so that they could stone me to death. All of this, it was because they were accusing me of what they thought at the time represented a Western culture, because they say a case like mine had never been seen. So I was importing the Western culture and trying to bring it to their children. This is the event that led me to realize that as much as I was passionate about what I was doing, the last thing that I needed was for my fiance and my parents to get bent down because of what I am doing personally. And then I decided to come to America. I had to leave everything I have worked for. I had to leave everything that I have ever known, all the safety and all the love that I have ever known, just because I realized it was not only affecting me, but it was affecting everybody around me at the time, even the intersex members that I was working with. That's when I realized that it wasn't worth it at that time. I have been in this country since 2016. This is my 7th year, and I still continue to do intersex activism whenever I can. And I'm looking forward to answering questions when it gets to that, because I think it's with speaking to each other and with your curiosity to every listener that we actually get to learn and educate each other, and sometimes unlearn some of the things that we thought we had learned and kept with us. So I'm going to leave it here, Morty, and I cannot wait for the interaction.
Firstly, Tatenda, so sorry for your loss. And thank you for standing up and living in your truth. As members of the community, we often bear that baggage of our struggles. And thank you for telling that story so eloquently. Tatenda, your story was captured in a heartbreaking yet hopeful film called She's Not a Boy. And I'd love to share a clip from the film. In it, we have a chance to meet your wonderful parents, Bettina and Isaiah. Let's watch together.
Yes, Mama.
Hey, Tatenda.
How are you?
Fine, fine. We are back from the church now.
So the past month, I've been doing speaking engagements.
Yeah.
For just encouraging people to love themselves more. So I'm on my way to being the next Oprah.
If we can't accept Tatenda as she is, what of the other community? Let us accept her as she is. That's when things started to change.
And I went to church and I just started changing the way I dressed. But once my father got up and he told people, hey, that child of mine that you thought was a boy, she's not a boy, she's a girl. Doctors have even confirmed that she's a girl. So, you need to stop talking and leave her alone. And I thought, wow, this man never ceases to amaze me. Because that's not an easy thing to do.
Such an incredible story and so moving. We are so fortunate to have filmmaker Robert Tokanel here with us today. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Morty. Very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, and we're so delighted to have you here with us. Robert, I'd love to hear from you what this experience was like telling Tatenda's story to the world. How did you two connect?
Yeah, so we first connected in New York. At the time, Tatenda had been there for a bit over 2 years. And I was a student, actually, at the time. I was a journalism student, and so I was taking sort of variety of classes, and someone had attended one of the events where Tatenda was telling her story while cooking, and I wanted to write a story about the asylum process, and so I actually called Tatenda completely out of the blue, just called her one afternoon and said, hey, I heard a little bit about you, and I would love to just meet for coffee and connect and hear more about your story and see where we can go from there. And so that sort of started things off. And I didn't end up writing that print story, but I did end up making the film down the road with Tatenda.
And look what happened from you using your gifts to share her story. And that's so beautiful that you use your gifts. And as human beings, as people, we each have gifts to bring to help uplift and help others tell their story and share their story so they can live in their truth and be their authentic selves. I'd be curious to understand more about your Stelli storytelling process. Can you tell us more about that, Robert?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the storytelling, I'll just say sort of first off that the process of telling this story was faster than most documentaries go. We did it really over the course of 5 weeks in terms of the shooting and then editing from there. So it was like one summer, and it was very, very intense process where we sort of traveled to Zimbabwe, and I think it, was asking quite a bit of Tatenda to go through all of that. And so I just want to thank her before we get into any of this for being willing to share that much of her life and to continue to share it with everybody else the way that she does. But so as I said, we started the process in 2015. And when I sort of first started following Tatenda, it was Pride Month in 2018. So we were watching her tell her story to groups of people similar to how she is now. And at the same time, as she's inspiring people and talking about the importance of intersex visibility, et cetera, she was also really struggling, personally, and struggling to find a community, even in a place like New York, where you would think there is a really broad, accepting queer community and that there should be a place for her. And so that's something that we really wanted to explore in this film, myself as a gay person, how can we go about making the right kind of space for the people in our community who aren't being heard? And so, we went to the Pride event in 2018 and asked people if they knew what the I in LGBTQIA plus stood for, and many of them didn't. And we, thought that we wanted to try to get that story out there and make sure that it was heard. And I think also, this is my producing partner, Yu Hong, she was new also to living in the United States at the time. And I think Tatenda's story really resonated with her as well, because as we were going through the process of filming Tatenda in New York, and then conducting interviews, one of the things that just kept coming up was the importance of Tatenda's family in her life, and the way that she had built, so much of who she was and what she was doing now, even in the United States, had been shaped by her father, shaped by her parents. And so we wanted to tell that story of family and about, growing and learning to, accept the people who are important and close with you despite their differences. And so we decided that we wanted to travel to Zimbabwe, and we spent more than our film's supposed budget on just the 2 tickets, and decided to go. And it was a little bit of a hectic time politically in Zimbabwe, because their first election in many years was being held the month after. But we arrived there. It was a long, long trip. And when we, finally got there, this was the morning that we arrived, which was actually June 28th. I remember, because that is my birthday. And, I think going in, we didn't know exactly what to expect, because we knew journalists who had been there, who had said this is a fairly hostile place to go and do this kind of reporting, especially on a topic like this, and especially going into this community where Tatenda, had already gone through so many things. But one of the things that we found pretty quickly is, like, Tatenda's parents are both, kind of leaders in their community, and I think that's one of the things that has helped, shape her. And so they were willing to sort of say, we're okay with having you here and with what might come of that, because we think it's important for you to be here. And we sort of traveled around with them, and were able to see parts of their lives. And then I think more importantly, we were able to learn about their process of coming to accept Tatenda for who she is, and learn more about what she'd been through. And this was actually the clip that we showed at the beginning there. You could see the video call that they were having. That was about, I think, 10 minutes before we were leaving to go to the airport, when Tatenda called, and we shot that, and then we threw everything into the car to jump back, and we flew back and shot the last scene the day we arrived back in the US. And I think overall this was, a process that kind of exposed us to the difference that one person can make by being themselves. I think she changed a lot in her own community, but also in seeing the events that she did here, and the work that she continues to do, and just being, brave enough to have her voice out there, and to continue to share, what her experience has been. And so the film is available now on the Atlantic. You can stream it there for free, and you can continue to learn a little bit more about what the experience is like for intersex people in this community. I'll give it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Robert. And you described not just a physical journey of miles across ocean, but just the emotional journey that was taken by all of you in helping to tell this story and share this with us all here today. And as I reflect upon this and what you've just shared with us, I'm curious to know with you if there is a particular moment that still stays with you and resonates with you to this day.
There were many. I mean, it was a kind of a whirlwind process, and I think a process that required so much of Tatenda, but also, you know, the process of asking her for that much of her story was also a very intense thing. And so I think we both kind of went through a lot emotionally with it. But I think the one moment that kind of resonates with me was being in Zimbabwe on that last day, visiting church with Tatenda's family, which was something we did not know we were going to be able to do when we got there. And Tatenda's mother saying this is going to be one of our proudest days because you being here is showing people in this community how important Tatenda is and how valued she is, that people would come across the world in order to learn more about where she came from and the things that she's doing. So
thank you for sharing that, Robert. And Tatenda, what was this experience like for you?
I think one of the moments that stand out for me is Robert and Yu Hong, who's great. She's not here. She was one of the filmmakers, an incredible woman from China. They had come back from Zimbabwe, and it was the 4th of July. It was all about independence and freedom, and people were happy. And I remember we went to the rooftop of a place, and we could look at fireworks. And I just remember in the beginning of the film, when I asked Robert to film me, I had thought that this was the last letter that I was writing to the world, because I didn't think I was going to make it. But the fact that we were looking at fireworks, it gave me some hope, because everything I had ever wanted when I do what I do is to be free and to encourage others to stand in their truth. And I remember that's the moment I decided, well, if this film is going to change lives, I have to be there for it and experience it. What a pity if I would not have been able to hear from people who have watched it and tell me what they go through with their own families and the sacrifices that their parents make, and sometimes the hate that's shared between children and parents, and people seeing my film feeling hopeful. So that moment has always stayed with me. That's when I made the decision that I wanted to be around and see. I'm so sorry, I just watched my parents, and that's really hard.
I understand, Tatenda, and hearing this moment is so important for people watching here today to realize, especially the fireworks that were going off on the 4th of July really tells a story of you and your independence and fighting for your truth and speaking your truth and living your truth. And I hope every 4th of July reminds you of just the celebration of you that should be there for you, because of the amazing, important stories that you've shared and the important work that still continues to this day. And thank you so much for that. And I feel you so much when I hear about parents and how important they are to helping us live our truth and be our authentic selves. And I'm so delighted that that was the experience that you had for your parents. And it's so wonderful that you have that support, and I've had that for you as well too. And when I think about helping others and how people can help and support each other, the question I'd love to ask you now, Tatenda, is how can everyone at home help?
I think it's people we can help by realizing that we are more alike than we are different. And once you're curious, it helps you to learn about other people's struggles. And also it helps you to unlearn some of the things you need to, that you have taught yourself or that the society has taught you, so that the world can be better. But also elevating voices, because I am one of hundreds and thousands of people who I was able to tell a story, and that's not an opportunity that everybody has. I wish I could exhume the bodies of people that I know have lost their lives with their stories buried with them. And I think we can change that by giving platforms to especially women of color who are the intersex and transgender and lesbian, and because these are the stories that when we share, people start relating. And to understand that finding healing, like I did in Zimbabwe, in a place where it doesn't exist, is very taxing on someone's mind of state. And the only help starts afterwards, because I had already crossed the bridge from leaving my country, but had done nothing to heal the pain.
I so empathize with that, Tatenda, and thank you for sharing that lesson. And for folks watching today, think of that as well. Oftentimes there's such pain and hurt of voices telling stories and educating people about our experiences that brings up that pain and hurt from the past. And one thing I'd ask for our audience to think about is how, again, you can educate yourselves and learn more about these stories, and think about sometimes the empty chair in the room or being a voice for the voiceless, because many times members of the LGBTQIA+ community are not there when decisions are made about our lives and our bodies. And think about that as how you can be an advocate for that community by being curious, understanding challenges our community faces, being brave to be a voice for the voiceless and to help support us on our journey, as we all just want to live our authentic lives and tell our stories. And Robert, if I turn to you, when I think of aspiring storytellers and how to support them, when I think of your work, how did you know this was a story worth pursuing?
Yeah, I think I knew that it was something worth pursuing because I had met Tatenda in, I think 8 months prior to when we actually agreed that we were going to do the film, and that when I reached back out to connect with her after we had initially met, it wasn't because I was pursuing the story. It was because I just wanted to see her and I wanted to hear more about her life, and I wanted to check in on her. And I just felt like, if this is a story that resonates with me and it's something that I can help tell, then it sort of flowed naturally from there. It's really just Tatenda is an incredible person with a story that I think a lot of people need to hear. And that's it.
I could not agree more about Tatenda and just the amazing light that you are in the world, Tatenda. I know there have been some tears here today, but you're such an amazing person and have such an amazing light to show to the world. I'd love to hear from you what you hope for next and what's next in your journey and in your fight.
I think what I hope for, when I moved to this country, I started learning about different stories that are even bigger than mine, where I realized that here in America, there are intersex infants that get unwanted surgeries, and sometimes doctors actually convince parents to do this. And most of the intersex people I have spoken to, they always tell me the same story, that they feel robbed, that something was taken away from them and they cannot have it back. And I hope that I continue to do in my work, not just as an activist, but I even want to take roles, even when I perform, just so that people can know the story and sort of get an understanding and want to find out more. But then, as we all know, being in this country as a refugee and being a Black woman, I have also started learning about other struggles, what it means to be a refugee in this country. 7 years now, and I'm still not able to go and spend time with my family if I wanted to. And just as a Black woman, that it's hard for me to get opportunities. And when I do, I don't get paid enough. So all those things, they make me realize that this little intersex story that I decided to share with the world has allowed me to tap into so many identities that I hope I can champion for and continue to do that until the end.
Thank you for sharing that, Tatenda. We all bear at times the weight of the intersections of our identities and how they interplay into our lives and the various struggles we go through each of those intersections. And you've shared a story that has just been so compelling and uplifting as well, to know that there are people like you in the world that are there to support and be a voice for the intersex community. And I think there must be so many proud moments, though, as well, amongst the tears and struggles that are there that you've had in your life. What are you most proud of about your life?
I'm proud that I make a choice to get up every day and go and give. Somebody told me that the greatest thing in this world is not what you have, but the ability to want to give. You judge yourself by not what you have, but what you're willing to give. And I'm proud that every single day, not just in activism and not just in the LGBTQ plus community, but in my work. I perform sometimes, I do theater, and I work in corporate jobs. I try to give the best version of myself each and every single day. And I know it's a very difficult thing to do. So I'm mostly proud for that. And I'm mostly proud that my parents get to see me fight the fight each and every day. And I have also inspired them and turned around everything that they thought was doomed. They have started believing. And I think that is the best gift I could ever give them.
You are a true inspiration, Tatenda, and thank you so much. And that comment you made about choice, we all have a choice every day to show up to be our best selves and to help others to be their best selves. So remember that, everyone. Every morning you wake up, you have that choice to help others be their best selves and you be your best self. Tatenda, Robert, I want to thank you both for being here and for your dedication to helping intersex people be seen and heard. I see you, and you showed us how to have deeper compassion and understanding. We wish you luck in your fight, and please know the entire Flipgrid fam is with you. So everyone, thank you, Tatenda, and thank you, Robert. So everyone, if you're feeling as fired up and as inspired as I am, and emotional, then head to aka.ms/visibility to continue this conversation. This will take you directly to the topic of the day, which includes a link to watch the entire 22-minute documentary by Robert and Yu Hong Pang about Tatenda's beautiful, incredible, and powerful life. There are some prompts for your learners to reflect on and to respond to. And don't forget, we've got all kinds of Flipgrid events, including 3 more this month in celebration of Pride. So head on over to aka.ms/Flipgrid live events to register for your next learning adventure. And that's it for today, everyone. That's all we've got, but I hope you've taken away some important lessons. Thank you for spending this past half hour with us. We'll see you next time.